Hi everyone, Steven here from Redolessence, and welcome to the very first episode of Ask Facebook, a series on my channel where I take fragrance-related topics and I ask my subscribers for their insight/experience. This is an opportunity for my subscribers to get more involved on my channel and for their voices to be heard. If you are interested in fragrance-related content, please be sure to subscribe to this channel by clicking on the red button, and also be sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell. This week's question is, what inspired you to get into fragrances? What or who inspired you to get into enjoying, collecting, or appreciating fragrances? The thing that got me inspired into collecting fragrances is when I saw a video on that particular fragrance and I had to tell myself that I wanted to try it out. The journey for me started out back in like 2007 or 2008. At the time, I inherited my first bottle of cologne of Tommy Bahama Original. That was my dad's cologne, but I had it. I don't wear it anymore because I ran out of it. My actual first bottle of cologne was Lum. Over the years, I appreciated my fragrances, and I would like to thank two people, Steven and Cody. You two have made my journey so much fun. Unfortunately, I'll be ending my fragrance journey. The last two fragrances that I received yesterday, Armani Attitude, thanks to Steven's video, and Virgin Island Water, thanks to Steven's and Cody's video, were the final fragrances I'll ever buy. I got into fragrances because of wet shaving, and it led into that rabbit hole. In my 20s, I was deep into fragrances. The first bottle I purchased was Obsession the day it came out. I also wore the designer classics like Lagerfeld, Grey Flannel, Armani, etc. Over the years, I fell off, and last year regained my love for fragrance and purchased Acqua di Gio, and have gotten my collection back up to 37 bottles. It's good to be back. As a man with many diverse interests and hobbies, I became a fragrance collector at the same time that I was learning more about men's fashion, shoes, and timepieces. Watching your reviews did nothing to alleviate my obsessive-compulsive tendencies. You, Brooklyn fragrance lover, and that devil Drakdoc. Thank you for all you do. I was into the fragrance world when I started to learn how scents can be part of your daily activities and define your personality as well. This being said, in the early 90s, I started to collect some nice scents, like Canali Cologne and Nordstrom, and some others. By early 21st century, I was fully involved in many fragrances. 90% of them fresh, citrusy, and versatile ones. Remember Animal from Animal, Eternity from Calvin Klein, Carolina Herrera, Dunhill Desire, Cartier Declaration, and some others. Then I started to look, and thanks to the growth of YouTube and the presence of Redolessence and other experts, to meet a new world, since from Costa Rica was hard to be in touch with new trends. At this moment, I managed over 100 fragrances from different grounds, but still mainly on the versatile ones. Fragrance world is amazing. Lets you get energizing scents, but fresh and/or dressy ones. You never stop collecting. My grandfather got me into fragrances. He used to wear Aramis every Sunday. I asked him for a spray every morning before church. My fragrance addiction just got worse from there. It was during a trip to Cartagena, Colombia many years ago that I became obsessed with perfumery. It was thanks to a very special person I met there who opened all my horizons. The thing that inspired me to get into fragrances more was feeling stuck. I was taking care of my mother, and I love world culture and learning about people and traveling. Fragrances were a way to put me somewhere else besides where I was. They helped me experience the world from the comfort of my own home. My journey with fragrances stems from my beloved wife. She loved her Chanel 5, wore amber to bed for 45 years. Since her unforeseen passing, I have indulged myself. I enjoy fragrance for me, but more importantly, it reminds me of my love. My dad always smelled great and had several fragrances, including Niche. It was natural to follow his lead. 15 years ago, I had surgery for tongue cancer. My sense of smell doubled. Smelling is equal to eating as far as pleasure goes. My hobby is like being a gourmet chef. Hey Steven, when I was younger and went on vacations to various islands, my parents would never forget to visit a beauty shop that had a bunch of brand deodorants and cologne/perfumes. At that point, I just reveled in the smell. But what got me super into it was when I made the decision to visit a perfumery in the city. It happened to be Parfums de Marly, and ever since I've been hooked. The only reason I keep collecting and experiencing is for my own self, because similarly to how certain people love to travel the world to experience many different beautiful things, I as well want to experience as much as I can through the world of fragrances. I bought my first perfume, Boss Bottled, around 1998 at the age of 16, which I have been using for a long time. After that came some cheaper scents, and then in 2012, I wanted to buy a higher quality perfume again. And then I found Redolessence on YouTube. Your channel has drawn me into this world, and since then I have not been able to get away, but I'm thankful for that. I would always have at least one fragrance, but the beginning of this year, I said to myself, Bob, aren't you tired of always smelling the same? I was like, why yes. So I started watching YouTube videos, and certain fragrances would interest me. Some I couldn't afford at the time. Then I discovered FragranceNet and Fragrance X and Afterpay. So now here we are. I think I have about 50 bottles after seriously collecting for 6 months. It just kinda happened. After my divorce, I was trying to reinvent myself. New clothes, new haircut, weight loss, etc. On one of my trips to Macy's for something unrelated to my new look, I forgot what it was, I walked past the fragrance section because I wanted to buy Acqua di Gio Pour Homme. I wore it back in the day and still loved it. Then I tried a different scent and loved that. And then another, and another, and another. So I ended up leaving with 3 or 4, laughing out loud. And then I did more research, because in the back of my mind, I always thought, if these are amazing and getting me compliments, what else is out there? In my research, I stumbled across a YouTuber that I don't like anymore, and he said that you wanted to have a scent for every occasion. He explained why, and it made sense. My collection has been grown to the point that I have a few scents for every occasion, and I can even tell which notes I favor the most. When I started, I would buy fragrances for the compliments. Now, my collection is up to 26, and I buy fragrances because I enjoy the way that they smell on me and could care less about compliments. I would say starting at the adolescent stage of my life, a little before that, I had a knack or love for fragrances and the passion to just smell good. My mother would spray on perfumes, and I would go right behind her and sniff the atomizer. To me, a fragrance speaks to you and has a personalized story characterized to one's persona. Fragrance enthusiasts, like myself, understand this and why everyone's nose palette is different, because the music/concoction of the notes composed are personal and bring out different emotions. This passion drastically amplified 2 years ago when I was introduced to the niche world through watching YouTube blogs and a trip to Saks in New York to experience the Artisans collection introduced by Tiff Benson. Through our intriguing conversation, her deep knowledge and sampling unique scents, I knew I had to delve more into this world, and, well, the rest is history. Glad I did. I always remembered my father having a cabinet of some drugstore fragrances, like Brut and Old Spice. For whatever reason, through all the years growing up, that stuck with me. I really wanted to be like him, but it wasn't until I was about 17 where I finally said one day, I want to wear some cologne. So I went to the local grocery store looking for anything I could possibly find. I found some Brut and bought the full bottle for $7. I loved that Brut. I quickly became more and more intrigued and excited about colognes. Yes, at the time I referred to them as cologne. I then noticed there was a fragrance community. It was very small at the time because there was one. The first 3 people I watched were Drakdoc, Al from Street Sense, and Steven from Redolessence. It was all uphill from there. I just happened to fall into the hobby with my first purchase ever of candies for men. As far as I can remember, I've always liked it when someone smelled good. So, as a teenager, I started to wear cheap colognes from Avon. As I grew older, I enjoyed going around perfume shops and smelling designer perfumes I could not even afford. But my fragrance journey really started when I received a bottle of Davidoff Cool Water from my grandmother back in 1993. From that moment, I was completely sold, and the rest is history. In 2012, a cousin of mine introduced me to niche fragrances. He gave me an empty bottle of Creed Original Vetiver to smell, and I was intrigued at how good the scent was, despite the bottle being empty. So I started to do research, and that's how I discovered the forum Base Notes, Fragrantica, and the Fragcom on Facebook, thus leading to the discovery of fragrances I never knew they exist, and also discovering your video reviews. At age 12, beginning of puberty, already got basic scents like Lacoste, just to smell good. Later on, at age 16, when I went to dance class, I got more scents like Drakkar Noir, Chanel Egoiste, Azzaro Pour Homme, Paco Rabanne Pour Homme, and eventually Davidoff Cool Water as my signature scent. As I got older, I got more scents. Every year, I rotated scents twice, and the year after, a different one, but never the same scent twice in a row. That went from DKNY, Armani White, Bulgari BLV, Bulgari Pour Homme, Soir, Boss Orange, Laura Biagiotti Roma, Ferrari Black, Givenchy Pie, Anayake Tomo, and that stayed like 10 plus years, just to name a few I burned. About 1.5 years ago, my twin brother told me about YouTube movies from Jeremy Fragrance, so I watched that. From then on, I watched more like Cubano, Redolessence, Imagine Scent, Gensense, Fragmental, Big Beard Business, Chaos Fragrance, Curly Scents, etc. At the same time, my visits to local perfume stores increased. My bank account decreased. My perfume collection increased. I'm mainly into good quality designer cheapies, but do have a Montal Intense Cafe, a few Arabian scents, and the collection grew from give or take 6 to 75 scents, and love to smell good and choose one every day that suits my mood/weather. By the way, purchased a sample set from you, Steven. I live in the Netherlands. My bottle of Armani Code got empty, and I have read that there was Armani Code Absolute, so I thought, maybe there are some reviews of it on YouTube. Jeremy Fragrance was the very first one. After that, your channel, and Max Forti's one, and so on. And so I discovered the world of fragheads and fragrances. My mother's love of fragrance combined with my background in memory and cognition catalyzed my fragrance journey. I have always been around and enjoyed beautiful fragrances. But as I studied psychology and learned about the intimate relationship between olfaction and memory, I became even more intrigued. There are several other people, experiences, and factors that have contributed to my love of fragrance, but my mom and my studies played the biggest role. Thank you, Steven. It will be amazing to share and read experiences. In my case, I was a little kid, and I saw my dad shaving and using what was popular back then, in the early 70s, Old Spice aftershave. I remember it came in a weird looking bottle. It didn't have a sprayer, and it didn't splash the way you would think. I remember wishing to grow older, stupidest wish I ever had, so that I could shave like my dad and use that amazing refreshing stuff on me. After that, I was intrigued by people's fragrances. Men and women know the smell and what was in it. Some good fragrances and some nasty ones as well. I remember my mom asked me what I wanted for my birthday, and I told her I wanted English leather. Back then, it came in a small bottle. I think it was an oil, but when I went to the drugstore with my mom, they had the fragrance on a glass enclosure, and it so happens that a gentleman was buying that on the occasion. And I got to smell that amazing fragrance. Well, my mom saw the price, and she ended up buying me a bottle of Brut 33. Also a very nice smelling fragrance. As I grew older and was able to save money, I was always trying to buy a new cologne as soon as the last one was finished. Some great experiences, and some bad ones as well. Once I started working, that's when I really started spending some serious coin. And when I got introduced to niche fragrances, that was it. Aventus, Frederic Malle, Roja Oceania, Roja Pure Distance M, and Pure Distance Black, Xerjoff, MFK Baccarat Rouge 540, and many more. Fragrances have been in my whole life, and they take me back to amazing times, just like a song or a meal for some people. My fragrance journey began as a hike. As a late teenager at that time, Drakkar was the Sauvage of its day. My mom got my dad that for Christmas. I loved it on him. So he got me Stetson, laughing out loud. My late teens sucked. My 20s started with jazz, escape, as my mid-40s exploded into a sprint with well over 80 plus niche and designer fragrances. The first reviews were collabs, Steven, Brooklyn Fragrance Lover, Tiff Benson, and a young lady I don't see anymore, Vava Couture. My love of fragrance came from always smelling my dad walk through the room and being a man's man. I restarted my fragrance collection a few months ago. I shut it off for several years due to the expense of adopting 3 children. I only have a few fragrances for now, but it is slowly growing. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. That was Ask Facebook, and feel free to join my Facebook group if you would like to participate in future episodes. If you are new to this channel and you took something of value from this video, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it, and of course make sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.